Welcome everyone to today's special report for the Division 2 private beta and also everything that's been happening in the past 24 hours. I am excited because we've got a lot to talk about. And I have some friends here to help me with that. I've got Yannick, who you know.
Hi. I like that you called us friends. That's
Well,
nice.
I mean, yeah, we are friends.
Come on.
Even though you haven't finished painting your Warhammer dudes.
Well,
And I'm
more
jealous.
than somebody else.
Hurry up. And Drew, how you doing?
Yeah, good.
It's
good.
been a little while since we've sat down together. We were talking about this before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the last time us three were here doing a stream was 1.3, and you talked about the world tier system and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, right before 1.4.
There was a couch back then.
No,
Yeah,
not
yeah.
anymore.
So that
Now
was
it's
very
like
different now.
Everything's way harder, and
We lost all our, I don't know.
slouch around so
Yeah.
much. But Drew, you are the lead AI designer on the Division 2, and
Yeah, that's
also
right.
we're on the Division 1.
Yep.
Is there anything else we need to say about you other than that you're recently a
No.
dad?
No.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks.
You look well rested for a dad.
Yeah, you think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
think
you
so.
lost the dad beard, so
Yeah.
that was
I had,
pretty
it, I
good.
had it for a couple months. It was,
Mhm.
Alright.
you know,
It looked
Yannick
fantastic.
and I were basically twins.
There you go.
Yeah, basically.
Yannick is also recently dad to a cat, but that's another
That's
thing.
true.
And you will have noticed that in the lower third for Yannick, he also has a new job title. Now, I'm personally, this is just my personal feeling, I'm really stoked that now the community has someone like Yannick out there on the production team, especially on the live content side, fighting for everything that I think is going to make the game super fun. He
Yeah.
won't say that, but I'll say that. It's
No, it's
awesome.
absolutely
And
true.
so
It's not that much of a fight, though.
well, no. But I'm just saying,
It's
like,
not like... Yeah.
having an advocate like you
Yeah.
that's been so much a part of the community dynamic is I think it's cool.
I
Drew,
think that,
Drew thinks
Yeah, and
so.
it's super valuable, honestly, to,
but I think that was the idea anyway. You know, it's for a role like that. So as live content manager, the role is about. It's a new role we're creating actually for Division 2 that didn't exist, and it's about on one side operating the game, running the game like the live producer used to do, making sure that the servers are up and that we're doing everything health and sanity wise to keep the game running. But also, work very closely with everybody to make the right decisions in terms of what do we do about all the things that the players bring up, and what new content do we want to add to the game. And all that. So I think it makes sense, and apparently people thought it was a good idea to have a guy that had a community background to actually do that. So
Cool.
Hooray!
One of the things that I said before was that it's obviously awesome having you in this role. You've been recently over in San Francisco as part of those events that
Yes.
have been happening around the world. We had San Francisco, London, I want to say.
No, we had San Francisco, Paris, Sydney,
Was it Europe?
and New York.
Close.
Yeah.
All right. How was that?
That was fantastic. I mean, it's the realization of it's becoming so big. It's not just like us working in a studio and making a video game. Then suddenly it becomes very real, and it reaches a whole different scale when you start going or seeing that kind of events. So there was E3 already. There were all these events, and it was already the moment where the baby is out there and people
Mhm.
start actually interacting with it and then looking at it, and that was kind of one of those steps as well. So it felt fantastic. People were stoked, so it was really good.
Do you have a highlight from the event?
There was this one thing. So the event was, and we will probably talk a bit about it more afterwards. But it was about both the PvE aspect, the open world, and all of that, but also the end game. So there was actually a whole setup there where the way they would transition people into the end game discussion, they had a whole light show in the venue and everything, and that was pretty amazing. So that was one of the highlights. The other highlight was just watching Jesse Mine, play the game with all the other guys, nothing but skills and everything, and watching them just having so much fun playing the endgame mission, and then just pointing finger at each other because they kept dying. Apparently they were not that very good at playing as a team. So then there was a lot of blaming and finger pointing afterwards, which was quite entertaining to watch.
Did you notice when people were dying, were they out of cover? Because I know that's one of the things that with the Division 2,
That's true.
like the gameplay is putting people more into
Mm.
cover. And I noticed a lot of veterans of the game who are super confident. They're like,
Yeah.
I don't need it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're
They're
gonna face tank.
Mm.
But I think it's a mix of the game requires you more to go into cover now.
Yeah.
And also
Yeah.
because when you've played a lot of endgame and grinded a lot in Division 1, I mean, you've reached a point where your gear is so good, your character is so optimized
Yeah.
that you just
Yeah, that's
really
right.
don't need cover anymore. So I think going back to the early stages also of a game where you have to learn everything, you don't have that gear and all of that is, I think a lot of people get kind of trapped into the old habits and then realize, oh yeah, true, that's a cover game.
All right. I mean, obviously that's for the veterans, but I know there
Yeah.
are a bunch of new people to the Division in chat out there online. For those people who have never maybe played the Division One,
Mhm.
where are we now? What are we doing? Where are the agents? What's
Yeah.
going on in the world of the Division, Drew?
Yeah. So Division Two, it takes place 7 months after the kind of epidemic of Division One, which is the green poison. We're instead of being in the winter like we were in Division One, we are now smack dab in the hot, humid summer of Washington D.C. So we have a completely brand new location, completely brand new season with all sorts of like really cool like dynamic weather and everything. Like
It's
gone are
red.
the
Man, it's sticky and
Yeah,
gross. It looks
exactly.
horrible.
But I mean, if you've been to Washington D.C. in the summer, like
Mhm.
you'll immediately recognize that as
That's
like,
cool.
oh yeah, this is what in a like the swamps of
Yeah.
it used to be a swamp, right? Like that humidity. It's a coastal
Okay.
city as
Mhm.
well. It's close to the coast.
There's a lot
and,
of
like,
green, which we
yeah,
didn't
and-
have in New York in
and
the
it's-
winter, right?
Oh yeah, and it's absolutely beautiful, and the architecture. But there's also all the differences as well when you travel from one part of the city to another. Like Washington D.C. is a
Yeah.
beautiful and very varied city. So you have, internally we call them biomes, but basically, what we mean is like there are lots of different places in the city that look and more importantly play pretty differently.
Mhm.
So for example, you have the suburbs of or the residential feel, I guess, of Georgetown. You have essentially what is jungle in like Roosevelt Island.
Yeah.
You have the downtown commercial district. You have the government district. You have the mall. You have all these like wildly differing, locales in Washington D.C. So I mean, working on a game like that, it's like super exciting when you, I mean, Manhattan is an awesome city in its own right,
Yeah.
but it was pretty similar. It was like there were residential districts and there were commercial districts,
Yeah.
but it was a bit samey, and DC gives us a lot more diversity.
Sure.
It was also like pretty much like very similar in a way, like streets and blocks and streets and blocks,
Yeah.
and like everything very perpendicular. And here you have so many more like open areas and a bit more diverse type of environment. But I think it also changes in terms of gameplay how you're going to approach all of that.
Not to belabor the point, but I know that with Manhattan, it wasn't a true 1-to-1. Some streets were missed out.
Yeah, that's right.
But with DC, we're doing 1-to-1, right? Like
That's right.
Like everything's in there.
That's right. Yeah,
Solid.
which is it's
All right.
pretty cool.
So one of the things that I know we've talked about since the start of when we announced the Division 2 was endgame is going to be a huge focus, and I thought what we could do is take a look at one of the casually. I prepared this for ages. It's like,
It's
we
like,
just
no,
have-
let's just take a look
but
at something.
There's an invaded mission. We want to talk a little bit about that. Can we just bring up some of that gameplay from the invaded mission? Because once you reach endgame,
Yeah.
people have seen in the trailers at the end of the story trailer actually the Black Tusk dude shows up,
That's right.
and what's going on?
Yeah. So, obviously, I don't want to get into
Well, we can't spoil everything.
Yeah, exactly. We don't want to spoil the story and stuff. But essentially, when Endgame hits, the world does transform. Right? We have a brand new faction that comes in that actually takes over territory and takes over all of the main missions in the game. Now, like this is something where when you transition to this state, you basically are beating back these Black Tusk baddies. And you're taking back kind of the territory they claim. And then, of course, over time, they'll take over more territory. You go over, you kick them out of that territory. Of course, get rewarded for doing so.
Yeah.
And then, it all kind of feeds into this really dynamic kind of endgame experience. Or at least that's our hope, right? Is that you're always playing different missions, and the living world, the open world changes as well, depending on the present. They'll take over name zones, they'll take control points. There's a lot of new activities that become available to you. We're really talking about kind of transformation.
One thing that I think is very exciting, because I know that some people did not necessarily understand that properly, is that the Black Tusk takes over and becomes part of this whole living world and all that, but the old factions are not gone either.
Yeah, that's right.
All it does is just like making them even more angry. So then
They're
there's
not
like-
happy about the
Yeah.
Black Tusk being there either, right?
Yeah. So it creates all these situations in the open world where suddenly there's that one faction that takes everything, and then everybody's kind of fighting against each other and fighting against them, and they just come in and they don't care. They're just attacking everyone.
Yeah, and
It's pretty cool.
kind of as you can see as well, like the Black Tusks are very technologically advanced,
Yeah.
right? We have our other factions, which have varying degrees of kind of their technical expertise and their kind of resources. But the Black Tusk kind of have all of the resources at their disposal, so they'll have things like flying drones. They have like the things that we call the Warhounds, which have that super powerful semi-automatic weapon on their back. They have kind of mini tanks that they can control. So they have a lot of different tools at their disposal, which of course will kind of change the way that you play as well. I'm saying it now. EMP is going to be your friend. Against these
That was one of
guys.
the things I wanted to ask you. So what we're seeing here is Gabe's gameplay, and he was telling me
Yeah.
he's soloing here, so fair enough. But he was struggling a little bit with these Black Tusk.
Yeah.
Obviously, your focus as a lead AI designer is very specific. Is there anything with the Black Tusk that you can tell us about that process of designing the AI portion of them? Obviously, there's Warhounds. I'm going to call them War Doggos. But,
Yep.
the Warhounds,
Perfect
which I
example.
actually looking at right now.
Yeah.
What kind of nuances are there to the AI of the whole Black Tusk situation?
Yeah. So I mean, so when we were thinking about the creation of them, right? Like obviously their tech level and also their kind of their training were
Mhm.
key to kind of who they were, right? Because they are also the most tactically superior force that you will fight, right? They don't have more hit points than anyone else. They don't do more damage than anyone else, but they're tactically superior, and they also have the technology that they can utilize as well. So a big part of designing them was okay, like how do we challenge the player in new ways so it feels like a fresh experience fighting these guys, but also how do we kind of take all of those things that the player has learned playing the entire game, and how do we try to test those learnings, right? Like we're really talking about ratcheting up the complexity. We're like, here's all these lessons, now see if you can put them together in different ways.
That's cool. All right. Well, we have a lot to talk about, but I wanted to kind of rewind a little bit back. We kind of started at the back, but obviously there's a lot more that goes into the game than
I'm
that.
not following the flow. Hamish, come on.
No, I got to
Bring us
get
back
back
on
to some other
track.
things. One of the things that people come across really early in the game is crafting. Now it's different from before. It's kind of streamlined, but is more core to your experience. I mean, you aren't Rasmus, so
Yeah, right.
you don't have all the answers. But Rasmus took us through it a little bit earlier. But what would you say are
Yeah.
the key differences with crafting in the Division 2?
Yeah, so I think at like a really high level, like I won't delve too much in details. So you can do that later.
Sure.
But like at the highest level, I think the biggest differences are that one that kind of crafting is now for everyone, which is a big difference. So like you will be crafting weapon mods, for example. You'll have them forever once you craft them. Blueprints will level with you, so you don't have to have a bunch of the same blueprints of different levels. You'll get them, and I think the biggest kind of change in my mind, which this kind of combines with
Recalibration.
the recalibration. Thank you.
Yeah.
Almost called it the other thing that it's not.
No.
But it kind of ties in with that as well, which is that every single item that you pick up is useful.
Exactly.
Even if you aren't going to equip it, it's useful in some way, right? Because you can strip things from it that give you some use. And again, I don't know how many details we want to get
No,
into.
exactly.
But,
we'll show that in just a second. If we can go
great.
back, we have a clip of the crafting station of how that looks. Because initially what you'll see is that when you open it up, obviously all blueprints are unlocked here, but you get those from many, many different sources throughout the game, throughout the world.
Yeah.
But here there's a lot of blue stuff, right?
Yeah.
One of the things that is coming in the Division 2 is that you'll be able to upgrade your actual crafting bench.
That's
And
right.
that's how you'll get higher quality things.
That's right.
Back to your point of the weapon mods.
Yeah.
I think what is really key to that discussion is that you craft a weapon mod once and you have it forever. There is no random rolls on those weapon mods.
That's right.
They're completely binary. You craft one, you have it accessible to all your weapons.
Yeah.
And I think that's
That's
really cool. We'll talk more
Yeah.
about gear and skill mods. That's a completely different kettle of
I
fish.
do want to point out one other really cool thing too,
Yeah.
which is we have so many more materials
Mm.
and things. Like it's a lot more grounded in reality this time. I think it's a lot more intuitive. It's a lot of fun to play around with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
It's really like, I think with the crafting and also I think combined to that, having, the civilians with their needs and everything in the world means that like scavenging is really a thing.
That's right.
Where you're really going to be going out in the open world and therefore also fighting in the open world because it's a much more dynamic one. But then like going out there, scavenging for resources for all these pieces you need and everything is really gonna be something that you need to do, but something that is fun to do as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I forgot to mention earlier that I'm going to actually play the first hour of the beta after this whole stream, by the way. So what we're talking about now, I'll actually get to show off to you very soon, including some of these things. Not crafting, but anyway. We'll just quickly show you what recalibration looks like, because I'm super stoked about it, because that whole consumption of the item that you don't really want anymore is really, really important. Because like you say, when you're playing through the Division, I think one of the things that is improved now in the Division 2 is that every piece of gear has value.
That's right.
And Rasmus was saying, he's a game designer on this feature, was saying that you can get really, really good rolls on specialized and other items as well that you might not want to use, but you might want to use that stat from.
That's right.
So the recalibration things are super cool.
Yeah.
All right. I want to get to playing, so I'm gonna blast through the rest of the things we need to talk about. But the Living World is now.
I don't care about you guys. I just want to play the game.
Can you just leave? I just want to play the beta.
Okay.
The Living World is obviously core to the Division 2. It was core to the Division 1 as well. But that we showed, I guess, the first taste of it during the E3 reveal with the control points.
Yeah, that's right.
Air Force One and that sort of thing. But there's a lot more. And you sit with a lot of those guys. What can you tell us about what they're working on?
Yeah, so there are a lot of activities this time around. And so if you think back to Division 1, if you're familiar with that, which probably most of you are, you'll a lot of the events in the open world were, to be nice, maybe a little repetitive.
I think that's fair to say.
And this time around, there's a huge variety, and they are all dynamic, right? They happen based on the needs and the kind of wants of all the different factions and the civilians in DC. So you have kind of an ever-changing world with kind of endless opportunities.
That ebb and flow gets really brutal sometimes as well. Actually, the first clip I'm going to show is something that still, like, I don't know, it's a bit chilling. I'm just like, if you don't have an adult,
a big smile.
This might be the time. Public executions are a thing.
Yeah,
actually,
that's right.
in this clip that Ella captured, the thing I love pointing out about this is you actually see another faction getting involved with the public execution, which isn't always going to happen. But the fact that these factions interact independently of you, of your impact on the world, I think is super cool.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, regardless of whether you're there, they're still trying to accomplish their goals, right?
Yeah. And the cool thing with the fact that it's super dynamic is that right now this is happening there, but if you were to come back later, there might be something else happening here, or
That's
nothing
right.
at all.
Or nothing at all.
Depending on how the living world
Yeah.
is behaving, and depending on which faction is currently dominating, and what contribution you made to all of that thing. So it's really interesting then to just run around and always experience something different.
Yeah, also, these things can also be controlled by the friendly faction as well, which changes the whole dynamic again. I got to run through as many of these clips as I can because they're so cool. We have the hostage situation up next, which is, again, another one of the Living World activities. We don't have everything that we're going to show you today because we want people to experience some things by themselves as well. But it's, I don't know, it feels, again, fresh and new from but yeah, so Matthew was telling me the other day, actually, I was lucky enough to sit with the people who are working on these features. And they showed me how the whole logic behind this runs, which is really
cool. Yep.
And again, it's not rendering everything, but that the systemic math and logic behind it is always running in the background. Actually, during the beta, even though you're only playing on a small system of the map, they were showing me that
It's still running.
the logic of the world is running.
Yeah, there's a lot already.
Yeah, which is super cool. And like you said, those variables of the factions finding out how many resources do we have? Do we need to go out and gather things? Do we need to like, if they're suppressed into an area, they'll more aggressively expand. It's
there's actually a really cool tool that you probably saw as well that visualizes this at like a top level, which is really cool to see.
It's really impressive when you watch it and you see the game that's kind of like calculating and simulating everything. It's really impressive. But yeah, I think the whole logic is really interesting because it's also, I mean, there's many layers, right? Like a faction is first going to be like trying to make sure that they get all the resources they need, for their own survival and everything. And then from there, they're going to start growing more aggressive and start going out there to start taking territory. And if you don't, because you you might not want to be part of it. You can let it
Yeah,
run
that's
on its
right.
own.
Yeah, you don't have to
yeah.
interact with any of these.
But of course, the more you let a faction do whatever they want, and potentially also, like the harder it's going to be for you to fight back. Eventually, also the harder it's going to be for the civilians and the settlements,
That's
because
right.
they're going to get completely overrun eventually. So it's something that's very interesting.
Yeah, I think this is really cool because you'll see here with the control points as well. Once you manage to take them over and you get a friendly officer in charge, you'll get access to a supply room
Yeah.
which has all the loots that
Yeah.
you might want. The other
Mini
thing
loot
that I
cave.
found out about that was if you, for example, we saw the control points, but the other activities that to take on the factions that are currently controlling that control point around the area, if you piss them off enough,
Mhm.
they'll reinforce that control point up to
Yeah.
higher levels.
Yeah, right.
And that's in the you see it in the last world tier, I think it is. Once you hit in game.
Yeah.
And then if you then take them out once they've reinforced to max level, you get even better rewards.
Yeah, that's right.
That's super cool. And
Yeah.
you see here, Ella was turning in a bunch of food
Yeah.
because
There's
she's nice like that.
actually there's a lot of depth here. I think like you could probably talk for an hour just about the cool things that are going
Yeah,
on.
this is my
Swedish
favorite.
Oh,
meatballs.
that's great! Look at that.
Thanks.
Hey.
Thanks, Sweden. I don't know who did that, but it's fantastic.
That's very good.
That is
But yeah, it's the same with
job.
because also it works with the civilians as well, right? Like here we were seeing like bringing resources to civilians that are actually controlling a control point. And it's like if you give them resources, then they're also going to like grow stronger and like reinforce the control point. So it's going to be
That's right.
better defended, and therefore less likely to fall to another faction.
That's right.
So,
So some of these are available in the beta. Not all of them. There are other things that I don't know. There are things called blockades. Can we say anything about those yet? Yeah, you give like a nervous sniff. Like
No.
we can't talk about blockades.
Yeah, there are a couple other things. I don't know. I think
but
maybe
yeah.
it's good to have some
But
surprises, right?
I mean, what there is to say is that when you reach the end game and there is the invasion, like the Black Tusk comes with its own kind of activity as well in the open world, right?
That's
So they're not only going to just like be contributing to the living world and doing the same thing, they're going to do their own kind of things as well,
Yeah.
and like following their own agenda. So it's gonna add another freshness again to all of that.
Yeah.
Obviously, we need to be careful, but like named enemies in the open world, they exist. So we'll talk about more about how that interacts with the beta. But can you give us anything about people know Bullet King and that sort of thing? Are those
Yeah,
things
yeah.
making a return in the Division 2?
No,
I mean, not
Namely
okay.
the
Hang on.
Bullet King?
No. I'm not saying is Bullet King making a return. I'm saying are things like the Bullet King,
Yeah.
coming back.
roaming bosses in the open world.
Sure. All right. Just to be
Uh,
clear, in before Reddit says Bullet King
Yes.
confirmed.
Yes, but they're a little bit different this time around.
How so?
I don't know if I want to spoil it,
Okay.
but there's a little bit more. So there's a little bit more structure to some of them.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm looking for nice ways to.
Okay, but we can say that named bosses are out there in the open world.
Yes,
They're worth finding.
they are
Um,
absolutely worth finding.
yes.
They are not always easy to find.
No.
And there are a certain number of them.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. More on that soon. But
So cryptic.
that is very cryptic.
But those
I
are
know
the-
that
those
was
are
not
the-
helpful at all.
No,
I'm
no,
sorry.
here's where I'm going.
It's Hamish's fault. He
No,
went
no.
down that path.
Here's where I'm going with this. There are preset named enemies that have a distinct name and all of that. But there's
Yes.
also a bounty system.
Yeah,
as
yeah,
well.
exactly. And
So-
that's a completely different system.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's the difference I want to point out, because a lot of, like we said, in-game focus. One of the loops that I'm really excited about is the bounties network.
Yeah.
What can you tell us about the bounties network?
Yeah, so I mean, again, it's a pretty in-depth
We'll
feature.
do
so you
a
could
dedicated stream
probably-
on it at some point.
I was gonna
but-
say so, but like at a kind of top level, we're looking at basically, kind of the most wanted criminals, kind of in the DC area that you have contracts to essentially
Mhm.
eliminate or defeat. And there are a number of different ways that you can get those contracts.
Mhm.
So some of the more kind of difficult and most rewarding kind of contracts you have to kind of find in special ways. There's like some kind of hidden aspects to it, some surprises to it.
We'll talk more about. I mentioned names on liberation stuff before. we're going to talk to Yannick about the beta in just a second
Yep.
because that's where this whole thing ties in. I promise I'm going somewhere with this. But is there anything else from your side of the fence that you think is worth touching on before we move on to pick Yannick's brain about beta stuff?
Yeah. I mean, I think we did a pretty good job covering a lot of it.
I think so.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
I mean, there's
we could be here forever if we want to talk about everything.
yeah. I will say that there are a lot of things that, or there are at least some things that we are specifically holding off on and will not be in the beta because we don't want to spoil everything.
Yeah,
So
good segue.
yeah,
I like that.
that's again cryptic. I've been
It's
nothing
super cryptic.
but unhelpful and cryptic in the last 10 minutes.
There's
This
one
makes
thing
sense.
that's really cool
Yeah.
with the game is just, and you talked a bit and also about like how you have to do special things to actually unlock other things and all of that. And
Yeah.
on one hand, it's us not wanting to reveal too much, but it's also because there's a lot of hidden secrets in the game. That people will have to find on their own, and
There-
we don't want to spoil them.
There are a couple that I'm very proud of
Mm-hmm.
that are very
that
dear
I
to you.
cannot say.
Yes,
Right.
and it's not because
several
we're not.
several that you two don't know about either.
Yeah, probably. And it's just to be clear, it's not because like it's not that we're not allowed to talk about them. It's just really that we don't want to reveal anything because like the surprise when people will find out is very important for us.
Yeah, absolutely. It's and actually, to be honest, like that was a major kind of goal of ours this time around was to kind of surprise and delight, the player more often. Like the Division, we had a lot of things that we really kind of like put all on the table. We're like, this is the game, this is the structure, this is exactly how it works. And we still want to be as clear as possible in Division 2, but this time we said, let's add some more surprise. Let's add a lot more, kind of exploration. Let's kind of reward players who are curious and want to explore the world a bit more.
All right. Tinks is in chat, so I know she'll be stoked about that. And hopefully we get episode 3 of collecting what remains after.
Eventually, a few years later,
Come on, Dave, Tinks.
still waiting.
Seriously, sort it out. All right, but speaking of, there are some things we don't want to reveal. This is how I want to segue to the private beta discussion because I can say this thing before Yannick gets into his full speech about it. The private beta, where you start in it, will not be at the exact start of the game. Again, this
Yep.
might be familiar from the
Right.
first game when we didn't start you at the start.
Yep.
I guess that's all I want to
But
say.
I think
segue to
it's
private beta.
one thing we do is the beta, right? We want to give a lot of content to people. We want all of you to be able to experience as much of the game as possible, but we also want to be careful not to spoil the story too much. So there are elements of the story that we're keeping out of the beta, just because we want people to experience them when they actually start the game. So yes, the part that happens before the beta begins, we're gonna be keeping that on the wraps, so people can discover that story when it's actually time to then play the whole story.
I still haven't seen it. I have no idea. I literally have zero idea. So I'm stoked about that. All right. So like I said before, I'm going to be playing through what I think is about the first hour of the beta. But for the people who are, lucky enough to get in, not lucky enough, but who have the ability to get into the private beta on Thursday, what will be the first thing that they do once they get in?
Well, I mean, the first thing that they'll do is creating a character, right? And so we have character customization in the game, and for the beta, we want to also keep it as a surprise, keep it as something that people will discover, really spend the time to actually customize their character. In the beta, we're just going to offer you the option to randomize your character.
Cool.
Just so you can, find a look that is similar to what you would want to go for. But we also don't want you to spend too much time in that because it still is a temporary character. It's not going to be the one you keep for the main game. Yeah, so we don't want to give you too much of the customization. So you're going to have to be randomizing it.
We actually have a clip that we can show of how this whole thing works. The cool thing is that you will notice is that even though we aren't giving you the option to fully customize your character, there's a lot of
options.
There's a huge amount of options, but also just the progression made in the Division 2 is, I think, hidden. So yeah, again, we'll probably randomize a few characters in the live demo of the private beta in a minute. Also,
Yes.
I didn't mention it before. We're gonna do some giveaways during that whole time, so stick around
Mhm.
for that.
Yeah.
All right. So you've made your character. What happens next?
So you've made your character, and then basically, so there's a part, as I said, we keep under wraps, so that's not going to be in the beta. So what happens is you start directly in Washington, D.C. So as Drew was saying, the game takes place in Washington, D.C. 7 months later. So you are an agent, you are a veteran agent that's been activated months ago, and that's made their way to Washington, D.C. to answer distress call. So you're going to be that agent that finally arrives in Washington, D.C. And the first thing that you need to do is establish a base of operations. And you know that there is one existing that is at the White House, which is
Where else?
probably one of the most important buildings in that city. But the White House right now is being under siege and being overrun by hyenas. So that's going to be the first thing you do is basically go there, liberate the White House, and establish your base of operations there.
Cool. All right. So we've established our base of operations there. What other content is there for people to experience in the beta?
So after that, then you're going to be making your way to the first settlement. We've talked about settlements, which are these kind of like pockets of civilians banding together to fight against the faction. So you're going to make your way to the first settlement, and then from there, you're going to start unlocking a lot of things. So we're going to have 2 main missions that you can play in the game. We also have side missions. We have 5 side missions that are available, and we talked a bit about the side missions and how different they are compared to the first game. Here, it's really like a smaller size mission, more than just kind of like repeated kind of activities in the world, like it was in the first
Absolutely.
game, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because in
They're
the
very
first game
different.
you had like go and hit these machines in a specific order.
Yeah.
Basically in quite a few zones. But you're saying like the team have made bespoke solutions for basically everything.
Yeah, that's right.
So each side
They're
mission,
really cool.
each side mission is unique. Each one is completely handcrafted. So you're gonna have 5 of those in the beta, and then there's a lot of open world. We talked about the living world system. You'll get to actually experience that in the beta. There's a whole part of the map that is available. You have control points. You have living world activities. You have a lot of resource nodes to discover. A lot of scavenging to do. A lot of collectibles also to find. The collectibles are there. The audio logs, the echoes. All of these are there that you can also unlock. And then on top of that, what we have is the Dark Zone.
Yep,
of
course.
We have to have the Dark Zone. So the thing that's a bit different with the Dark Zone here is that we've added an introduction mission to the Dark Zone, and the idea was really to try to bring people there in kind of a bit of a safe context, so they can actually make their first experience in the Dark Zone, kind of teach them what are the rules of the Dark Zone, how is it different from the rest, before you first then experience.
And you're like, oh, what happened?
Instead of a trial by fire. It's,
kind of. So we have that, the Dark Zone. We also have, organized PvP with Conflict. So we'll have one game mode, which is Skirmish. And
I don't think we've shown that map before either. It's on Stadium, I think.
It's on Stadium, I don't know if we've shown that one. But yeah, so we'll have one game mode and one map available here. That will be available pretty early on. So for the people that just want PvP, you can directly go there. Everything is normalized, so you don't even have to worry too much about your gear or about your character. You can just directly, as soon as you unlock the base of operations, actually, you will be able to go into PvP.
So that'll keep people busy for quite a while. All the open world activities, Dark Zone, the 2 main missions. I think it was 5 side missions. But then there's the invaded main mission.
Yes.
How do you get into those? And into that, because there's one.
Yeah. So there's one invaded main mission. So the second mission that you get in the beta, it's called Jefferson Trade Center. You will get to play it as part of the normal game flow. So when you're level like 4 or 5 or something, you get to play it. And once you completed that mission, we will unlock the invaded version of it. So that will happen. So there's a time, which is on Friday at 5 p.m. our time. So that's 5 p.m. CET. We will make it available to all the people that already completed the mission in the normal playthrough, all the people that complete the mission afterwards.
Mhm.
And starting from that point, what you can do is basically log out of your character.
Oh, we can show this actually.
Oh.
Okay, I made a little clip of it
Oh,
before.
nice.
I didn't even know
because
that.
I
Oh
think
my
it's a little
God.
bit confusing. Like, you'll get this notification, and
Yeah.
then it
Oh,
probably
thank you,
directs
Hamish. I'm trying to explain something, and you're like,
Sorry.
"Yeah, that's a bit
So this,
confusing."
this is how it works, right?
It probably is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yes, exactly. So once you've completed the main mission in the normal playthrough of the beta, and after the time that I said, then you get to log out, and yes, you will have 3 level 30 characters fully equipped, each one with a different specialization. So you can just log into any of those characters, and then you will get to replay that mission, Jefferson Trade Center, but level 30 end game with the Black Tusk as an enemy.
Mhm.
And you can play it as many times as you want with any of the 3 characters. Log out, select another one, log back in. You can matchmake there, so you can also, you don't have to play solo. You can play in a group.
That's cool.
So yeah,
All right. And also, like, if people really wanted to experience that whole beta flow all over again, like the White House liberation and all of that, they can delete their characters as well.
yeah,
Like,
you
so-
can delete it. So we only allow you to create 1 character, and the reason is that we need the other 3 character slots for the level 30 characters. But therefore, that first character, you can delete it and create a new one if you want to replay everything. Mind you, there's a lot to do, so you shouldn't be running out of things to do in that
Right.
beta. I mean, we're looking at
Right.
many hours of content just for that. So yeah, but if you want to replay the beginning, you can just delete your character and create a new one.
Nice. One of the other things, actually, people have seen it in loading screens that got leaked and all of that, but photo mode
Oh
is
yeah.
coming.
Yes.
Oh, it's so cool.
To the Division 2, and correct me if I'm wrong, but Leamington deserve mad props for,
Yeah.
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
that. So
Absolutely.
thanks.
It's pretty.
They did great work.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
pretty fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm really psyched about it, and I know a bunch of the Division community will definitely get a lot of mileage out of that as well.
It was such a requested thing on the,
Yeah.
on the first game,
Yeah,
so it was
actually,
like we
A
had to
lot
have
of
it.
a lot of the devs, right?
Yeah.
Have,
Yeah.
have loved making
Yeah.
wallpapers.
Yeah,
from,
absolutely. That's true.
from it.
That's true. So it's a bit self-serving as well.
Mm-hmm.
But it's something we're also very excited about, and we are very, very excited to see how people are going to be using it. Because there's so much to see in the world. There's so much to discover. There's so many things. We know how people would love to just go explore the world in the first game and just make screenshots of what they find, because there's a lot to discover, a lot of hidden small stories and micro elements everywhere. So now we actually have a photo mode that allows you to make some very, very good shots of that. So yeah, very exciting to see what people will make out of it.
Nice. All right, time for Yannick to really do his job. This is a fun question
Because so
for
far
you.
it was just like, well,
I like this one. No, but obviously a lot of the things that I see online, people are really psyched for the beta, but they are wondering who has access, how do I get in, where do I redeem keys, what do
Yeah.
those keys mean, and all of that. So who gets in and how?
yeah. So for the beta, what we're doing is that you have 2 ways to access. If you pre-order the game, you get a guaranteed access to it. Or otherwise, you can register on the Division website, thedivision.com/beta, and there you can register for a chance to be selected. So we're going to be inviting people who pre-ordered, and then a lot of people also that just registered and are just waiting for a chance to actually be playing the game. I know that a lot of people were asking about when are they actually going to be getting the keys. So everything is going to be sent tomorrow.
Mhm.
So tomorrow, that is the 6th of February at 10 a.m. CET, so
Mhm.
10 a.m. our time. We are going to be starting sending the invites to everyone. So if you've been selected, you will receive an invite at this point. You may or may not get a key depending, because the access is a bit different depending on how you get your access. If you're on PC, if you're on console, and all of that, it's a bit different. So just follow the instructions that are in the invitation. But yeah, all of that is going to start rolling out tomorrow. So, and what that means is also that starting tomorrow, 10 a.m., so from the moment you get the invitation, we also have a preload that is available.
Exactly what I was going to ask you. When can people download stuff?
Yes. So yeah, starting from tomorrow as well, we have the preload, so you will have 24 hours to download the build before
Alright.
we open the servers.
This is my terrible internet New Zealand brain talking. How big is the download?
You will want to get to it pretty fast, because we're talking about 45 gigabytes. It's
Big.
Yeah, it's big.
All right.
It's the game.
It's
It's a big piece of the game, so that's a big download. So really get to it as soon as you can.
All right. Well, that's a lot. That's big. The other thing is, can people bring a friend?
Yes, actually, yes.
Oh,
they
people
can.
asked about that before.
So yeah, what we're doing with that beta is also we are allowing people to invite their friends. So everybody that gets access to the beta, pre-order or not pre-order, whatever, everybody that gets granted access to the beta gets to invite 3 of their friends as well. So you will have a module on the website to do that. You can put 3 email addresses, and then your friends will receive an invitation as well. Those that are invited through the friend invite do not get to invite more friends. So
That would be.
sorry. Eventually, it's
I was
running
going to
out
make.
of control.
One could say it's exponential, Yannick.
You know what? I was wondering, is that actually exponential? I will never use that word again.
Sorry.
For those who know.
Throwback to Yannick being Captain Exponential. Oh, okay.
That's
Wow. This is like way too meta for right now. So 24 hours to preload from 10 a.m. our time tomorrow. So that would be
4 Eastern.
4 Eastern,
Or is down.
1 Pacific,
Yeah.
10 p.m. New Zealand, 8 p.m. Sydney. What? We always get left out. Why are you guys laughing? It's
yep.
always like Europe, US, every time zone in the US. No, why are you, I don't know why you're
one
laughing.
time zone in New Zealand?
Of course.
Yeah.
Do you think like New Zealand's like sideways like this, like super wide? We're
We're
not Australia. Oh.
curious. Yeah, I know.
Okay, that's enough. But okay,
Hamish
so
triggered.
in the Division 1 there were beta rewards. Yannick, do you have any more rewards for us this time?
Yes, we'll have rewards for the beta. So we have weapon skin for everybody that participates, and then we have some special reward for people that also complete the endgame mission.
All right. Are you able to tell us what they are, or are you going to hold those?
No, because I forgot.
I don't remember what they are either.
I'm really
so,
good at my
yeah.
job.
Okay. No, but that'll be cool.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
The artists here are really good at their stuff.
Yeah,
so
I'm sure. I mean,
that'll be good
Sorry.
stuff.
do you have anything to show? No.
I actually don't.
so
So,
then-
wow, touche.
So then,
Right, I didn't do my job either. So
but
obviously
there
the
will
beta,
be rewards.
people are really excited about the beta, myself included. But what for you and the, or I guess, live team and also production, what are the things that you look at during this period, and what are the focuses for the team during this phase?
I mean, there's many aspects. One of the important one is obviously all the online aspect, right? It's going to be the first time we have that many players that are going to come in, hammer the servers, try to log in, try to matchmake, try to go in PvP, try to load different maps, going from different data centers. We're going to be running a few tests in the background as well on our side. So that's one of the huge takeaways, is first making sure that the infrastructure is solid and is ready for an even bigger load moving forward. So that's one aspect. The other aspect, and that's something that for the design teams especially is also going to be very interesting, is all the data that we're getting from that.
That's right. Yeah, and feedback as well.
Yeah, and
Like,
the
it's
feedback
not
then was
just-
the third one as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's
Sorry, I jumped the gun.
no, that's fine. But it's the two things. It's looking at the data on how people play, and how far do they make it, how many times do they die, and all these kind of things. But also then, obviously looking at the feedback we're going to get from the community. What are people talking about? What do they like? What do they not like? And yeah, all these kind of things.
Cool. I mean, I think it's fair to say that the beta has a lot of content.
Yeah.
Why? Why did you put so
Why
much
did you do
content
that?
in the beta?
Well, there's many reasons why. One is that that's just the game. That's like, we didn't actually create something that is like alien to what the game actually is. That's just when you take, a slice from level 1 to 7, which is what we're giving you. That's as much content as you get. I mean, but like we didn't really add anything on top of that. That's just how dense the game is, and I think that was an important message we wanted to get out there. Is like, there's so much to do in this game. There really is a lot of things to discover. So we wanted to give that to the players. We wanted all of you to experience all the different aspects: the PvP, the PvE, the open world, the missions, the invaded missions, all these kind of things. The also interaction with the settlement. All of these are really interesting for us to just like put in your hands and see what you think about it. So I think that's one of the reasons. And then there's also, other reasons, like, for example, making sure that people have enough to play to stay on for the whole weekend. And so that way we can make sure that we have a lot of people that are always connected, which helps also for us with all the online aspect, for example. So,
Sneaky. Get that server.
but it's like
stress
everybody
tested.
wins.
Yeah.
right?
Oh, here you go.
And we also
You're
collect,
selfish, but it works.
We also collect more data and feedback that way
Yeah.
as well,
Yeah.
right?
Well, I know that, like, since we have competitive PvP in there, I know that's Red Storm's jam. Like,
Yeah.
they'll be stoked to be gathering
Yeah.
data
Yeah.
for that. I know that
yeah.
there's an MMR system in there
Mhm.
now that they're that needs a lot of data.
That's right.
So
So we need people to play a lot of matches and
Mhm.
generate a lot of information there, and also feedback.
how do people
So-
play? Once I mean, we
Yeah.
can do all the tests internally
Yeah.
that we want, but really seeing like a huge mass of the division players
Mhm.
like out there in the world, there's
Yeah.
nothing better than that data
Yeah.
to really see how the game holds up. Cool. I saw a question in chat a little bit before.
Mhm.
What can you tell us about stash space?
Before we talk about that,
Okay.
there's one thing I wanted to mention because I think that's important to mention it because there's always the discussion about but the beta is happening too late and it's not going to have an impact on launch or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And while this is true to some extent, like not all the feedback we get during the beta is something that can be done for launch. It doesn't mean that it's not useful. And I think that's something that's very important. That's a message that I want to get out there is that, whatever it is that you find out during the beta, whatever is the feedback you give us, whatever is the opinion you have, even if it's something we cannot act on for the launch, it's still something that is important for us to know looking forward. We're going to be keeping working on that game for, a very long time. So we want to know as soon as possible what you want us to do with it. So right from the beta, even if there are some things that you see in there that you don't see have changed when the game launches, that doesn't mean they will never change. I think that's something that's very important to get
That's
out
right. Like I think sometimes it's it's hard to see that game development sometimes just takes a little bit longer than you would expect that it would take, right?
Yeah.
Because all of the testing, all of this, there's all sorts of processes in place for ensuring that what goes out is good quality and so I mean all of that feedback is going to be so incredibly useful, and I know that myself and the entire design team and gameplay team is all really looking forward to getting all that.
That is one thing I will say, and I can say it because I don't really work on that team, is that a huge shout out to everyone who's working on the game, because like people here in the office are like super invested and basically all out on this game, making it awesome. So awesome, good job. And also, if anyone comes for them, I'll fight you. Just it's what's gonna happen, and I'm huge, so
Enormous.
Drew's just
he doesn't look like it.
Drew's 200 kilos.
It's the perspective. It's the perspective that makes Hamish look small, but he
I'm just
actually
like
is
that.
Exactly.
super huge.
Yeah, that's just.
Have you
what
seen
I'm-
Lord of the Rings? It's like that.
Don't even. Man, like the amount of times I've been like, apparently I look a lot like Billy Boyd.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never thought of that.
Also, you come from New Zealand, so you basically
Yeah, clearly.
Yes.
live there.
Oh, look, okay. This is totally off topic. My friend's dad was he played Gambling, one of the writers of Rohan. Hi,
No way.
Bruce.
That's super cool.
Bruce Hopkins is he's a cool dude. Anyway, New Zealand things.
Stash space.
Enough. Thanks for dodging my questions.
No, I'm
Yeah,
not
no,
judging.
you're good.
I just before we move on from beta topic,
Okay.
I wanted to get that. All right, stash space. So what's going on with stash space? We know it's a big topic. It's something that people have been talking about for a very long time. So what we're doing with stash space and the way we're looking at it, and here we're talking about the perk of actually getting the elite agent pack that comes with what was called like extra stash space. So I can't remember what the actual wording of it was. So the idea is by getting that pack, what you're going to unlock is you're going to unlock extra stash space early on when you play the game.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea is really to give an extra boost from the early stages to the people that have it. So you're going to get extra stash space from the beginning,
Okay, give me numbers.
but then everybody gets to catch up.
All right. Okay.
That's the important
But that's
message.
the important part, right?
Yeah.
Is that second part? Is that everyone
Yeah.
gets to catch up?
So, and the way it works is we have a perk system in the game.
Okay.
So you're going to be, and you have that in the beta actually, you can gain what we call shade tech, which is, a kind of currency that you have to explore the world and find to, unlock new skill variants, new perks, and all these kind of things.
Mhm.
And some of those perks are actually to increase your inventory space and your stash space. And so what we're going to do is, for those that have this extra stash space, they're going to start with the final perk directly unlocked.
Okay.
So they don't have to grind to get it. They will have it directly unlocked, which means that at the beginning of the game, they will have more stash space. But that perk is available for everybody to get in the game as well if you get the currency.
Okay.
So you're going to get to play the game, unlock all the perks that are related to stash space, and eventually, completely catch up. When you reach endgame, everybody is going to be at the same level.
Right.
And what we're looking at, since people are very attached to numbers,
I am.
what we're looking at is basically you have you start with 50 slots in your stash.
Mhm.
Then you have an extra 50 that you're going to be able to unlock through various perks as you play the game, as you play the campaign. And then you have the final perk that is an extra 50 that unlocks just when you're doing the end game. And that's that one. That's that extra 50 that you can unlock in the end game. That's going to be unlocked right from the beginning for people that have the Elite Agent pack. So people that have the Elite Agent pack start with 100, get to reach 150 by the time they finish the campaign. The others start with 50, get to reach 100 when they finish the campaign, and then unlock the 150 as they play the end game.
To be clear as well, that's not the only thing you get in that edition of the game.
No.
No.
I know we focused on it because it was a question from chat. but
Yeah,
there's-
that was a very important discussion. So it's
there's more.
important to clarify that.
All right.
But yes, there's much more things you get.
Yes,
with that.
that is another stream. All right. Thank you. Thank you for that.
I hope that makes sense.
I think it makes sense. I think it makes a lot of sense. I'm almost ready to start playing this game.
Can I?
I'm really excited. Yes, I was
Can
going
I
to
add
ask you.
one bit of information
Please.
that
he's
like
he's
is
going
not
off
at all
script. He's
related
going
to
off
this.
script.
All
I
right.
know.
I don't
Uh-oh.
have it in
Uh-oh.
here, Drew. Drew Improv.
Can
All right, I have time.
Can I just say that one of the really cool features that we haven't talked about at all
I'm so scared. Like, all right, no, please.
is that you can play with your friend of any level.
Oh yeah, this is really
Yeah.
cool.
It's pretty cool, and we haven't mentioned it at all.
Yeah.
And yeah.
And we
So I
had
thought I'd
questions
bring it
about
up
that
here.
actually. Yeah. So how
Yeah,
does it work?
So like the way it works is that if a friend is a higher level than you play with them. You essentially get leveled up to their level, and you get to play with them without any kind of penalty. You still get XP, you still get loot, and it's all for you. It's not like it's this inaccessible, leveled up loot or something like that. It takes care of it. So like behind the scenes, we basically give you this buff
Mhm.
that makes you kind of play like a higher level character than you actually are.
Mhm.
And then once you leave the game, you go back to your normal level, but you have all the XP, you have all the loot, you have all of that stuff.
Is that leveraging similar systems to the normalization that we have in PvP, or is it an entirely different thing?
I think it's a different thing.
Okay.
Tech-wise, I
All right.
actually don't know.
Yeah.
So
Question for
that's,
someone else.
That's a question for someone else. Yeah.
But then everything you
That's
get then is scaled to your level, right?
Yeah.
You're,
And,
like,
and Mattia
potentially
could
lower
probably give a lot more details. But yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But it's an awesome system. It works super well. It's very it's very simple and streamlined.
Yeah.
And I mean that's exciting for me, being a new dad, not having a lot of time or predictable time
Yeah.
playing with
level.
friends.
I
who
thought
maybe
you were
have-
going to talk about like
a
playing
little
with
bit
your
more
kid. And
Yeah, right.
Being your dad, like
Being
my
your
kid can
dad.
play the game, and my kid
Playing-
won't suck as much
Playing
as
with
I
my
thought
few
they
Yeah,
would.
months
exactly,
old. That's
exactly.
gonna be nice.
But it's a cool feature
It is.
that I'm excited
Yeah.
about for
Yeah.
sure.
I was so terrified when you said, "I want to talk about something we've never mentioned before."
Yeah.
But that's cool. Lots more to come. But yes, as I mentioned before, do stick around. I'm going to be playing through the first 1 hour of the beta in just a second. We'll be giving away some games.
So how far do you reckon you'll make it?
I was thinking that I will do like the White House liberation part, get into the settlement, first mission, and maybe we'll leave it there. Because I kind of want to take it slow and show off some things. There's some...
1 hour might not be enough to make it that far.
I'm pretty quick.
He wants to take it slow, but he's pretty cool.
Okay.
China.
Yes. All right. Well, thanks, guys, for joining me. This was a fun throwback to 2016.
Yeah.
I
it,
missed you.
it feels like home.
Oh, sorry, I have one more thing.
Wow, so many of these. All right,
It's on a
please.
roll.
I have one more thing that maybe in your stream you might show off. But first time you play a mission, right? We have a very bespoke setup.
Yeah.
Where
Oh, yeah.
NPCs spawn from the exact right location at the exact right time, and you know the exact competitions. The next time you play a mission,
Mhm.
it's like in a replay mode.
Mhm.
We actually change the types of NPCs that spawn.
Cool.
We like randomize it,
Mhm.
and we actually change where they spawn from. So basically, when you replay a mission,
Mhm.
you don't have the exact same experience
Yeah.
every single
You
time.
don't know where to lob the grenade when they come
There's
out of
no
the...
You don't have the
Lexington,
Lexington,
rooftop,
exactly.
All right.
But that's actually, I think, something else that when we talk about the beta, that might also be exciting to do is
Yeah.
to play the mission more than once because it's going to be different every single time.
And you have a difficulty mode as well, so you can replay the mission in a
And
hard mode.
hard. That's right.
also.
That's right.
Yeah, lots of that.
Yeah.
I also just do want to mention, Peter put out an awesome GIF earlier this week of cats confirmed.
True. That's confirmed.
It's chat brought it up It's incredible. I know. Okay, this is a little bit behind the scenes, but it's cats, so I probably get in trouble. But I was told that
No idea where
the
this is
cats
going.
thing, I don't know. Okay, but the cats, because there were bunnies in the game, and then based on someone, I don't know who this someone was, at a certain show in Germany, talked to some of the devs about needing cats. I think it was Cheshire. Well, I don't know.
Somebody that's into cats.
We can't give any credibility where we don't know. But apparently they replaced bunnies with cats. That's the
I
TLDR.
didn't know
of it.
this story.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
I was just hoping that the cats would use the bunny animation.
There's probably an old version of the game where they did.
Yeah,
We have
it
to
would
find
be
those clips.
nightmare fuel. That is what it is. All right, thank you. Unless you have one more thing.
I'm out of things.
You
I'm
have
out
to
of
keep
things.
talking
about
I need to
cats,
stop.
so-
I need to stop.
All
Yep.
right. Well, thanks, Yannick, Andrew. Should do this again
Yes.
Sounds good.
absolutely.
very, very soon. All right, I'm literally right now going to get off my butt and go over to that computer over there and play the game in just a second. So we'll go up to the end screen for just a second, mute these microphones, and I'll get all hooked up. And we'll see you in a second. All right, don't go anywhere. Giveaways for games. All right.